Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to the Richard Listens Show. I am Richard Oelberger, and we are here with All Access Broadcasting in our second month live in our new studio. Hope you're liking our new digs, and thanks to all of you who checked us out last time. We had over 3,000 live views last I checked, so we appreciate all your tagging, sharing through social media, and the word is getting out there. We're excited in 2019 to bring you a fresh lineup of guests. We've got entrepreneurs, we've got young leaders in their field, we've got 16-year-olds who've written books for self-help, and 2019 is for sure a year of change and inspiration. This last 2 weeks we were always talking about high performers and how to get to your peak level. Well, for me, these last 2 weeks were about resetting the dial. So I hope we talk about that, cover that a little bit today. We hope we're not just encouraging you to burn your motor out. We know these holidays can be intense, and we hope that you're checking into 2019 slowly. So today we have in studio Miss Caitlin Patricia Weiler, fresh off things she can tell us, things she can't tell us about her acting career.
Hello.
Feel free to grill her. She can say, I can't answer that. We'll see how she holds up.
No more questions, please.
And today in studio, basically the rule of Richard Listens is if you can kick my butt in a workout, then I invite you to come on the show. It's been great pleasure to have on a couple of people that I've met through Studio Gym, so shout out to them at Studio. If you want a great high-intensity workout, they will push you to your max. So our guest today, I'm proud to call him a friend, is a former collegiate coach, is definitely still an athlete at the highest level, and he's also an entrepreneur. He is the owner and I believe CEO of OMSI Medical Solutions, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his life transitioning from coaching afterwards, and as well as some of the controversial subjects we've been all dealing with the NFL this year, such as Colin Kaepernick, what's it like to be his coach, what's his evolution been like, the anthem, and where he stands on all that. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mr. Ahmed Zaroug.
Welcome.
So you mentioned before you came on, you split time now between Arizona and LA?
Yeah, I've been doing that for probably the last 5 years almost now.
Yeah. And so what led you to, your company does toxicology screenings and a couple other devices for the medical field, lab results?
Yeah, originally started my business in 2012 doing toxicology services, so just helping doctors protect themselves, patients who are getting prescribed meds, making sure they're taking it as they're supposed to. So I had clients in LA and Phoenix as well as other places, but that's kind of why I set up 2 home bases. And then a few years back, I partnered, while networking in that space, partnered with a company down in San Diego that owns a wearable technology that we administer to employers on a baseline level. It's like a muscle tissue test, so that if somebody gets hurt down the line, we can do a second test and compare the results and see if they actually are hurt, and if so, where at, how severe, so they can get treated right away. So that's kind of what I do now, run those businesses, go back and forth, working from home most of the time.
Yeah. So what was there anything about football and coaching that led you into these ventures involving pain, opiates, those levels, lab toxicology screenings, or what led you in that direction?
Yeah, kind of a funny, crazy story. I was coaching up in the Northwest, and I would do Nike commercials like on the side whenever I had time, which was not very often because coaches put in quite a few hours.
Yeah, I've seen you get some air in those like those are your photos, like getting off the ground to do the hip bump after someone gets an interception or something, right?
Yeah, I got pretty excited.
You've got some height, yeah.
So I was doing that, and it was January. It's almost going to be 7-year anniversary now. January 19th, 2012. I was recruiting in Seattle. They asked me to do a commercial, and luckily I was able to do it that time because the commercial was filming like from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. like these 2 nights. So went through the first day. It was not really even like fitness modeling as we thought it would be, but we were almost like stuntmen. Had pads on, hitting each other, doing these stunts. And the second day, I actually was volunteering to do like all the stunts because I had to wrap up the commercial and drive directly down to Portland State where I was coaching. I was actually the recruiting coordinator. So we had 20 prospective student athletes coming down that we were hosting. So I'm just kind of raising my hand like, I'll do this, and
You're hoping to get out of there quick.
yeah, I was hoping to get, because everyone else was like, whoa, you want us to do what? Run full speed and like do a cartwheel,
I did an audition when I was living in Mexico City, and that was the same thing. They had this huge hurdle, and you just went in and you're just supposed to jump, and I'm like, what if I knock the whole thing down and I'm on my face at this place? Oh my gosh, I was so nervous.
You guys
I was like, I'm always the accident-prone person on the set, so.
Yeah, I am too. So yeah, you never know what you're
You are
signing up
too.
for. Yeah, apparently so. So anyway, the film. I mean, we were almost done filming the commercial, and we were this particular stunt. They were asking me to like run full speed and slide like a baseball slide, as if you would lose your footing. Something that happens on accident on wet surface usually. But we were wearing these brand new football cleats. We were actually in the Seahawks practice facility, so it's it's turf. And the commercial, just to give you a backdrop of the commercial, it's like a kid catches a kickoff, and there was only about 8 of us in the commercial, but they duplicated all of us, so it looks like there's 30 people running at him, and then he basically jukes us all out, to score a touchdown. So there's fog, dark, and I'm doing this stunt over and over and over so they can get all the different angles. And literally turned to the choreographer right before the last one. I said, someone's going to get hurt doing this. Next thing you know, I go to slide, and like my right foot got stuck in the turf. And then, the kid returning the kickoff kind of bumped my knee, and broke my fibia. It split open. Like, it was pretty gross looking. Like
getting
my
queasy.
Foot, my
listening.
foot was like
oh my gosh.
pointing that direction. I have some pictures.
And
I
have a story like that too, where literally I said that one thing to someone, and then boom, that's where I had like my worst injury.
Yeah.
So we both learned our lesson to not
Well, you're
say that
probably
again.
not at your peak at midnight after like not sleeping, running at high speed on turf.
Yeah.
Did they have you sign a waiver?
So that happened, and then called my head coach, said I'm not going to be there for the recruiting trip, and I sent him a picture of my leg. And that just started gave me some time to kind of think about what I wanted to do. And I always had thought about getting out of coaching. I just had so many different interests. And, I had a work comp claim at the same time because of that injury. So I was kind of started to learn a little bit about that field, combined with a friend of mine who was actually friends with my older brother for some time, was in that space working for a lab. And he kind of wanted to start his own. So we partnered up. I just made the decision to retire from coaching, really without anything. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew that, I was going to look into entrepreneurship or doing something different. This was the right time because of what happened.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
This was 7 years ago, 2012, in January.
Wow. How's the leg now? Because I see you
It's
doing
good.
some box jumps.
Yeah, I mean, I got some scars, but yeah.
So the injury kind of led to this soul searching of like, well, maybe this is the opportunity for me to see what else I can do as a businessman.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so have you found the workers' comp industry is receptive to the technology portion?
Yes and no. I mean, this, my primary business now, this tool that I'm telling you about, it helps employers really who are having high cost of claims with either, high frequency of claims, people are filing a lot of claims, or, high cost of claims. And a lot of times it's a cultural issue. You see, company XYZ, they had, a rash of soft tissue claims spring up, and it's probably because they just have a bad work culture, and word of mouth gets around that such and such, his back hurts and now he's at home, collecting checks.
Right.
So it kind of makes it easier for other people to, follow and do the same thing. So
I can say it now that I don't work for the county of Los Angeles any longer. But you notice, I mean, if there's negative work environment and high burnout and high stress and a lack of ability to get support, people somaticize.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not consciously doing it. I'd like to assume that people are not, but
I was just like part of office talk recently where people were talking about lawsuits that they had went through with other companies, and So yeah, it's definitely a real thing.
And and it's like you said, it's a cultural thing. It's maybe not even people, trying to defraud the company, but it's just when it's easy and it's right there, it happens more than it should. And this is just a tool that you can kind of shift the culture, make sure that everyone knows that they're being, they're held accountable. But at the same time, if you actually are indeed hurt, it's better treatment, more expedited.
So what does it do? It tracks. When they initially get their physical, it tracks tissue.
Yeah, it takes about 30 minutes. We stick electrodes all over their body on different muscles, and then we take them through some movements, prompted by a computer, 10-second intervals of either resting or some type of movement.
Range of motion.
And the graphs are going to track their range of motion, their strength, or any scar tissue they have, or acute pathology. And it just actually gets stored in the cloud. So then, let's say 3 months later, that same person says, I hurt my lower back. We can do the same test, see where the actual injury is, where if there is an injury, number one, and if so, where exactly it's at, so they can go see a specialist right away.
So I would think this would be a great benefit to companies and HR departments.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's shown to be pretty effective from a deterrent standpoint, and then from actually putting it in place too.
So how has the growth been for you? Is it still in its infancy, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly new. It's been steady growth just on its own. I don't know that I've been doing all I can to grow it further, but it just just keeping up right now with the organic growth of it.
Mm-hmm. So are you having to deal with a lot of management? Do you guys have a lot of employees, or?
Yeah, I have about 40 around the country, most of whom I have never met. Just hired to administer this, this test at different sites. So
that's got to be a challenge. How do you get them into the pulse of what corporate culture you want to create? Have you thought about that? Is that the next level?
It's tough. It really is, especially when you're not there and you don't see them or sit down with them. But luckily I hire athletic trainers mostly, and I was in the collegiate athletics, and so I have a lot of connections in the athletic training department. So I've hired a few key people who I've known, who've hired others that they know. So kind of by word of mouth, just making sure somebody is reliable and will represent your company the right way when they're not being looked over, because they really are essentially working on their own.
Right, you're hiring quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, but I'm working through it.
Yeah.
So you're managing this device though and many others, right? Or just this?
No, I mean just this, primarily just this. I do have some other business in the medical space, but this is really what kind of takes my time from the day-to-day, is managing those folks, hiring new people when I need to, or, when new business comes up in an area, cultivating that.
See, I love hearing the aspects of how an athlete maintains, like even just keeping relationships with other people who you kind of have an understanding their work ethic, or that they care about the quality of performance. Kind of keeps you connected to like your process as a recruitment coordinator. I mean, you had a bunch of different titles when you were
and you know what? That's probably more than anything prepared me for life after coaching, was the grind of coaching. I mean, you're a father almost at times. You're a recruiting coordinator. You're seeing kids all over the country, sitting in their living room. Then you're bringing them to campus, making sure that they're going to school, that they're growing academically, socially, on the field.
So talk to me about that. How did you wind up there? Because we've met Deonte Brooks has been on, and hopefully he'll be back. I know he wants to come in with Garrison Reese and talk about his upcoming Ninja Warrior tryout. And Deonte was one of those guys, right, from Compton, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what led you to be? I mean, because did you appreciate the time, like going into the inner cities, and what led you to that like level of motivation to be able to go reach out to people and bring them and say, like, I've got you, and this is where you want to take the next step in your journey.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't take that lightly. I mean, that's one thing I probably miss about coaching, is that connection, that personal connection. But Deonte is a great example. Any inner city kid from Compton. I actually recruited him from Elko Junior College. And when I recruited him, he needed like a lot of work just to get eligible to play for us. So brought him up to campus, and at Portland State, it's not Alabama where you have support staff that everything is taken care
full
of.
Tutoring department.
Yeah, full tutoring department. So the summer before he was supposed to play, I was actually tutoring him. You can ask him this story. I was actually tutoring him, like in July, on Portland State campus, calculus, and I didn't even know what I was doing. And I would turn to him, and his eyes are rolling, and then I almost flipped out on him. We almost got into a fight. I was like, man,
I don't like this either. Who likes calculus?
Exactly.
You just do it.
God, I couldn't even get through accounting.
But a guy like that, that you think maybe he's going to be a lot of work or whatever, ended up being one of the most rewarding guys I've ever coached, just because he ended up being a great teammate, even more than even what he did on the field, just a good person in general to have around the team, responsible, all those things that, you'd like to see happen for him. And he grew, and we're still, close to this day.
That's amazing. So, so did you play yourself, Cleveland?
I did, yeah. I played at Oregon State, and this really was my position coach at Oregon State. I was going to school to be a dentist, actually, initially, and then after I was done playing, I actually got hurt before my senior year, so he asked me to kind of stay on as a student coach, and then just kind of went from there. Then became a graduate assistant coach, and then coached for 7 years, so kind of landed in my lap.
So is there anything like Oregon State, Oregon? Like, what's the biggest rivalry game you played in?
Yeah, that's got to be the biggest, obviously. The Civil War.
The Civil War, yeah. So talk to me. What's that like to walk into Oregon Stadium?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm actually from Eugene, so I went to high school in Eugene, and then
and people in Eugene root for who?
The Ducks. So the Ducks are in Eugene, but I ended up going to school, an hour up the road.
So your friends were like always judging you and stuff, like training.
And then actually at Autzen Stadium, the crowd is like right behind your bench, so you could hear people like yelling the whole game, like Zaru, like saying all kinds of shit, right in your ear, and they're sitting right behind you. So.
I mean, you got to be pretty tough to take that at like 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
You're my neighbor.
But yeah, that was fun.
Any other rivalry games that compare to that? Coaching.
I would say just when I was at Oregon State as a GA was during like USC's, championship run, where they were like felt like playing an NFL team, literally. And it was. I mean, all those guys went to go play in the NFL, but the atmosphere, they would sell out the Coliseum, 90,000 people. They had all NFL players. It was a different experience than playing any other team at that time or any other place.
So do you get geared up for a game like that, or are you psyched out before you even step on the field?
Well, I was a GA when I'm talking about, so I didn't really have to step on the field. Yeah. But actually, a few times I would be down on the field during warm-ups and walking next to some of the SC players. I was happy that I wasn't putting pads on against those guys.
6'9", 340.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Exactly.
Yeah. So of course we promised everyone we would ask about. So how did you wind up at Nevada, and was Kaepernick there when you got there?
Yeah.
Like, how did that work out?
So yeah, I got to Nevada because Nevada.
Nevada.
So the same coach who got me into the same coach that got me into coaching, Nigel Burton, who was a coach at Oregon State, moved to Nevada. He was the defense coordinator there, so he brought me in.
Is he also associated with OMSI Medical?
He's not. No.
Oh, okay.
He's not. But yeah, he's a broadcaster now for Pac-12 Network. But yeah, he moved down to Nevada. He was a defensive coordinator there, and he was installing like the defense that I had played in, for example. So I came down there and joined him. When I came, Kaepernick was a sophomore. He actually was battling for the starting spot. Him and another guy were trading series the first few games that I was there, and then he had some like ridiculous games where he would run for 300 yards and throw for 300 yards. So then he became the permanent starter after that. And then so he was the starter the 2 years I was there.
So what was that like to see his evolution? Like, was he, was the media attention start to increase? And
yeah, he was a pretty soft-spoken guy, to be honest. Really polite. Didn't have a ton to say. He obviously became pretty popular in Northern Nevada because we were having a lot of success, and he was doing really well. But I can't say that kind of when the whole anthem thing came up, it was a little bit surprising, to see him in that light. And I think it probably grew into something beyond what he ever thought it would. But yeah, he was a pretty soft-spoken guy.
Yeah, I mean, what was the furthest what was the highest rank that they wound up finishing?
I think his last year, Nevada was, probably top 15, top 10. I don't remember exactly, but that was Boise and Nevada were both really good at that time.
Yeah.
That conference. Yeah.
So, have you been in contact with him ever since?
I was in contact with him his first few years in San Francisco. Just congratulating him, texting him now and again. But since the anthem stuff, no. And I don't think he has. I think he has a new number.
That's what we joked. He had him on speed dial, but he talking about Nike up in Oregon. They've was it Nike or Adidas that put out the
Nike. Nike did, yeah. So I know that got a lot of pushback from people. It was polarizing, but I don't know how it did.
Well, but it at least showed, referring to Kalen, where they did a commercial like honoring him standing up for what he believes in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, he really did sacrifice his career for it, and I don't know that he knew that would happen, but that's what happened.
There's still hope, right? You can still hope someone will give him a chance.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Now that maybe the media buzz died down a little, I think the media really kind of blew it up to, out of proportion a little bit. I remember like after that, for even the following year, they would be reporting like, during the anthem, so-and-so was in the locker room and such and such was fixing his helmet. Like, what? Reporting that on every game. So it just became like such a topic of conversation that teams that would want to even bring him in, they don't want to answer questions about the anthem and his protest all day long. So that's kind of hurt him.
Yeah, and when you were coaching at Nevada, I mean, like all this Twitter, like everything you say gets immediately projected out there. Was it as big for players at that time?
It was. Twitter was around, but it wasn't probably at what it was like today. So we're talking like 2000, 2009, 2008. So I think it was kind of like in the early days of Twitter. So it still was there, and I would remember we would have like the beginning of the year, we'd have a symposium where we would talk to the players about what they post on social media and all that stuff. But obviously it's on a different level these days.
Completely different level.
Yeah.
So what would you tell a guy who's like, you feel is going to be a prospect and a lot of attention, like how do you tell them to protect themselves?
How do you prep somebody for that?
Don't press send.
That's like in the county. I remember a whole training that was on like, infectious disease. It was a guy singing a song like wash your hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically. You don't want to catch anything?
Yeah.
Or what I'm wondering is, since you've completely switched fields, what have you taken from coaching that you're now readily using every day in your new business?
Probably just treating everybody different, if you will. When you're a coach, there's a school of thought that people think, you have to be, the same with everyone. And I really found that not to be true, because everybody's different and everybody, ticks in a different way, and you kind of have to find out what makes them tick, and
finding that connection with that person.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly, that connection. How are you going to get the most out of them? How are they going to be the happiest? And what is right for this person may not be the right thing to do for the next person. So, kind of adapting that into, people that I lead now is probably the biggest takeaway I've taken from that.
Yeah, I love that, because even too, when I've switched gears from different things that I've done, I've found that if you can find a way to connect with people, especially people that are working for you, your way may be a great way, but they might have a better way, or just a better way that suits them. Mm-hmm. And as long as they can be productive and at their high efficiency, then I'm like, you can do it your way. Figure out your system kind
Absolutely.
of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe give me an example, Umzi, for an athlete, football, especially this culture that's so, like, got to be tough, can't reveal emotions. We've seen, maybe in the NBA, we've heard some people talking about depression and things like that, but in the NFL, it's been kind of stuffed under, and then all of a sudden, like the Minnesota Vikings, when their lineman this year all of a sudden was hospitalized, you just hear incident at the facility, won't be playing Sunday, back next week. I mean, that's the extent of. So how did you deal with like let's say the more sensitive parts of people's lives as a football coach.
Yeah.
What approaches did you find, like, to reach out to people that were going through different things?
It's funny that you say that. There's been it's moving to the direction of mental health being more acceptable to talk about, especially in a football setting, where I do remember a time when it wasn't at all. And you would know when there's guys going through a tough time, and sometimes they wouldn't have anyone to talk to. I remember when I was at Oregon State, we did introduce like a sports psychologist that did meet with some of our guys.
You did bring him in.
Yeah, and that was, at that time, I remember it being very outside of the box. This is like late 2000s, 2005.
Did they do it officially? Like, did
no,
the
they
coach
didn't do it
introduce
officially.
them?
No, it was more so of,
hanging at practices.
Yeah, exactly. And it's knowing certain guys who might need it. And some of it was performance-based. I played with a guy who went on and had a great NFL career. I think I mentioned this to you. When he was a freshman, he would, if he gave up a big play, his body would go into like almost like a full-body cramp, even if it was like 50 degrees outside, just because mentally, he would panic and his breathing would change and it affected him physically. He wasn't able to play anymore. So there's cases like that, and then there's also guys, who are going through stuff, in their personal lives or just mentally in any way. But once I was a coach, I was kind of aware of that. So I would regularly meet with guys, on an individual basis and just talk about life, how they're doing, where they live, all those things.
The example of being from Compton, now you're up in, it's kind of rural Oregon.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, small town.
And you got to be sensitive. And one of the, I don't know if you call it sad, but at the time it was sad. There was a kid that I had recruited who was up, during fall camp, and he was like in tears because he had told me that he never liked playing football, and he was doing it for his dad. And it got pretty emotional because, I could see that the kid, he was telling the truth, and his dad wasn't having it, even at the time, saying, oh, he's just a freshman, he's, got cold feet, this and that. And
he was thinking about quitting?
Yeah, he did quit. But at the time, just by sitting down and talking to him, I could see that it wasn't like him just having cold feet. He genuinely did not like playing football. And if you don't like playing football when you get to that level, it's not going to last long. It's not going to work because you have to eat, sleep, die football.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more
exactly.
intense.
It's more and more intense. And if you're really not, interested in doing it, you're not going to be sticking around for very long. And so just
that's a powerful role of coaches right
Yeah.
there. I'm glad to hear at a Division I football, level that you were there to do that, because, right, feeling like you can't tell anybody you don't like playing,
exactly,
you don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I wonder for how many athletes, right, because it's to get that Division I scholarship means so much to different people, whether it be to family for monetary purposes or for status, because your dad and your grandfather played. It's like, do you find a lot of guys like throughout their collegiate career, their interest level or passion level?
It happens. Yeah, it happens all the time, especially in the first couple of years of doing it. If you don't absolutely love it, you're not going to be able to go very far, even if you are talented. You know what I'm saying? Just because it takes that level of dedication, that it's not going to be fun.
Did you find anyone you met that like wasn't the most talented but like loved it beyond anything?
Oh yeah, shoot, tons of guys. Look at the NFL right now. Half of the NFL are undrafted players. You know what I'm saying? Guys that are there based on their passion and their drive, especially in football. Basketball not so much. You need a large amount of talent to play in the NBA.
It's true, but I think they were comparing, what's his name, Robert Covington of the Sixers. He just got traded somewhere.
Yeah.
I forget which all-star they were comparing him to, who has gets paid about $16 million a year or something like that, and his numbers are like almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
So he's worked himself up to 20 and 8 and
exactly. It happens there too, but football, you look around, it's happening all over the place. The guys just are, dedicated to their craft, and
that's the whole
their butts off.
Patriots team, right?
Yeah.
He just brings in guys that are willing to work hard and follow a system.
Exactly.
growing up on the East Coast, that's what I loved about like the New York Giants growing up. It was all like lunch pail guys.
Yeah.
They all like we're overweight, snowy, dirty. No offense to my blue collar New Yorker friends, but it's like it was like they were just out there and they seemed to care about team and working hard together. Mm-hmm. So that's some of the beauties that sports teaches us. So what would you tell to people aspiring to get into collegiate athletics these days? I mean, we talked about slowing down a little bit. How do you help people learn how to dial it back when you're in such an intense culture all the time?
Like for players? What did you say?
Yeah, players. I mean, yourself as a coach.
Yeah. I'll definitely speak from a coach's standpoint. It's really hard to compartmentalize, and you end up kind of wearing your job all the time. And that was one of the reasons why I kind of got out of it. I had a very difficult time, putting it away. So when you got guys that you're coaching, but like you said, they're coming away from where they live, living on your campus. You play so many different roles and wear so many different hats.
It's a big burden.
Yeah, that you feel that responsibility all the time. So I think it's important to have that balance. I've been with coaching staffs that they kick you out of the office at a certain hour because if you want, you can grind, sleep in your office, which people do, and I've done. But it's really important, I think, to take care of yourself and get an adequate amount of sleep and downtime away from it, to really sharpen yourself and make sure that.
Did you learn that from going the opposite extreme, or how?
Yeah,
who taught you that?
Yeah, I did. I've been around a lot of different coaches in my short time, but I've seen it both sides. I've seen guys get burnt out, and then I've been on staffs where the head coach will kind of gauge the temperature of the staff and tell us we need to go get some rest.
So what was something maybe that they did really positive, say at Nevada or Oregon State, to send that message to you or to coaches?
Well, at Nevada, I had a coach. His name is Chris Alt. I don't know if you know him. He's in the Hall of Fame, but he's very fiery. One time I was falling asleep in a staff meeting.
That was it.
So he stopped it and told me to go to sleep. Go take a nap.
So was he angry, or was it?
He actually wasn't angry, which is rare because usually he is angry. But I was kind of new on the staff at that time, so he's probably taking it easy on me. But it was a good wake-up call.
Did they do anything else for the coach? I mean, how does Burnout get ready? Because at Division I, I mean, the pressures are so intense. Like, poor Urban Meyer, that guy. I think, I mean, I'm worried about him.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, it took until, like, heart palpitations until he's like, okay, you're off.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the most unbalanced.
It is. And there's a lot of guys who have an imbalanced, work-life balance. Because like I said, you're in that sport. It's like doing your job at gunpoint. You know what I'm saying? So every week you're put to the test. And if you're not the best, you get fired. So
kind of like acting.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a professional failure. I always say that.
It really is. Yeah.
But it toughens your skin, man.
Yeah, it does. You just there's no other way to do it. So you just kind of.
Did you carry that fear with you all the time? Were you like?
I didn't. A lot of guys do. The reason I didn't, because I was kind of like, hey,
whenever it's over,
I'm just gonna do my best and put my best foot forward and see what happens. And if I'm not a coach anymore, I'm not a coach anymore. I'm gonna do all I can. But guys, especially people with families, they're worried that they're gonna have to get up and move their family if they don't win some more games. So they're in their office.
Now, have you seen though that pressure kind of turn into something negative for that person though? When they're trying to do this for their family, but yet they have this other pressure. So that must be mentally tough.
Yeah, it is. And I have so much respect for football coaches to this day, and a lot of them are my friends that I still keep in touch with. And I think the divorce rate is probably higher than normal among coaches for that reason, for both the stress that they're under, and then the fact that they would have to relocate. Even if you're doing well, you're relocating all the time. You know what I'm saying? Moving on to different schools.
That affects military families
exactly.
as well, right?
Exactly.
Constant readjustment.
Well, I'm the queen of readjusting and trying new places. I've been moving around for 6 years pretty much. Okay. And I've finally just found one place to call home in 6 years. So I kind of experienced
so do you
that.
notice like major shift in your stress levels?
I mean, even now since I moved here, though I moved 3 times, so I didn't get settled as right away. But even as we said as the show started, I've kind of just sent a different intention on my year and have tried to slow things down and be more in the moment of what I'm doing instead of always being in the rush to be on time to the next thing. Or, because if we're slowed down and we're more in tune with the moment, then I've really seen a difference in like my everyday already. And so I'm trying to like hold on to this new kind of more slowed down. I'm still going really fast for most people, but I'm not, going a million miles a minute and feeling stressed from all these other things coming along.
No, I'm glad you bring it up, Caitlin, because I often talk to people about somatic experience, which is my vantage point of practicing psychology from. And in order to get into your body and operate at a high performance, you also have to know where your reset point is. So, my focus for 2019, I'm not afraid to is sleep, because we can be in the gym working out every day and moving like a slug, or you notice you can't even lift heavier weights than you did a year ago, because if your mind isn't rested, if your body is not rested, the wheels on the car start to deflate. Mm-hmm. So it's an important message. Doesn't matter if we're in the mental health profession, the coaching profession, the human body is a messenger, and it's giving you a signal. So if you, like Amzi mentioned earlier in the show, if you have an injury, sometimes like people, that can really affect how you feel about your status, your job security, your place on the team. But it's also an opportunity for healing. Like sometimes when we're just constantly pounding, working out intensely, we're not fully recovering. So I don't know what your experience, Amzi, has been with recovery and that kind of stuff personally, through your own work or work with athletes, but I'm feeling more and more the need for and now we have cryotherapy, Normatec, massage. Like I'm learning the importance of it's not like a luxury to get a massage if you're intensively exercising.
No,
it may be
painful.
a necessity.
I need that so bad.
So what things do you do for yourself, or did you recommend for your players?
I think cryotherapy is great, massage therapy. A lot of these new, modalities have been introduced kind of recently, where we used to kind of just jump in the ice tub back when I was playing. But I think it's really understanding your body too. Even, outside of football, from, working out standpoint, some people's body can handle more than others. Like me personally, I get hurt a lot. It's easy for me to stay in shape, but I get injuries, soft tissue injuries a lot. So I got to know when, to back off, maybe not work out 3 days in a row, those kind of things. And there's no different, in football. And as a coach, I would kind of monitor that. As far as there's some guys that just break down a little easier. You want to maybe hold them back and practice a little bit, their reps and all that. Other guys that, they just need to let that energy go and run around more than the normal person. So it's kind of case by case, knowing, your sweet spot, when you need to back off, when you need to get rest and recover.
So what do you think about, we talk about work culture. Last summer, unfortunately, was that tragedy at University of Maryland with a player, the heat stroke.
Yeah.
What more needs to happen to help people find that line between the push for preparation and getting ready at a high level versus keeping people out of danger?
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of testing, preventative tests that they can run now, because I don't know that particular case, but I've known in the past, guys will have sickle cell or some type of condition that wasn't tested for and went unnoticed, and that's why they had, the collapse or whatever happened to them. So I think that there's, a wide array of preventative testing that can be done before they get into your football program, and I think more and more that's becoming more and more common. And then at the same time, it's it's nice to be tough and in good shape. I think some coaches maybe take that a little bit overboard. and there might be some people on the team that you can't handle it, and either because they're out of shape or because they have a condition like this. So it's just kind of something to be aware of. I'm sure more and more coaches are now that some of those things have happened.
And you mentioned the awareness. I mean, I know we had someone was reflecting back to me on, the Hank Gathers tragedy, and like more and more people are coming up with like Chris Bosch, right, about clots or about heart arrhythmias. So there must be some technology, a way that they're tracking. Yeah,
exactly. And I think some of those things they didn't know about, in the Hank Gathers time. So Bosch could have been, another Hank Gathers had that not been detected, and they planned accordingly. He's, I think, done playing now because of that.
Is he done for good? Did he retire?
He retired. He hasn't played in like 4 years, so I don't know. He says that he's trying to come back. I don't know. I think it's too risky. Maybe doctors won't, sign off on it.
So technology is helping attunement too when you're pushing people too hard.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you mentioned the Pacific Northwest. I mean, I know the Seahawks have a Finding Mastery. They incorporate Michael Gervais, a sports psychologist, into their training. Do you think that NFL teams or more and more Division I college teams are applying that to their departments?
I would think so, because like I said, when I got out, I've been out of coaching for 7 years, but now when I was, for my time as a player and coach, I saw a progression towards that type of thing, towards thinking outside the box, bringing in these other experts who have something that can add, benefit and value to the players. And I know Seattle, like Coach Pete Carroll, is very, cutting edge and innovative on that kind of stuff. And I think it's great. I think there's a big need for that in college sports, pro sports, and it's good to see that it's starting to happen.
Yeah. How about you, Caitlin? How are you taking care of yourself in 2019?
Like I said, just trying to slow it down a little bit. Slow it down.
So what's one or two things you do?
Just finish what I'm doing in the moment before starting the next task. It really sounds super simple, but I've been a multitasker my whole life, so I'm usually trying to do multiple things at the same time. So just being more dialed and focused on what I'm doing. And like even just being here on the show, I'm not thinking about where do I need to go next and I have to do this, this, and this for the rest of my day. Instead, I'm trying to recognize like that thought when it comes to my mind and say, no, I'm right here, right now doing this. And being in the now is really hard for me. It seems like it's an easy thing, but it's not.
No, you trigger for me a book I'm reading right now. I always share sometimes on my Instagram what I'm reading right now. So I think it's called The Awakened Family. So maybe we get a link up for that later on. But it pretty much talks about this tendency in coaching kids and always needing to be the best and the fastest, and we're rushing them from one activity to the other. We're not teaching being present. And we're not
I think of my childhood. That was it. I was rushing from that practice to this practice, then to work, and then homework, and then sleep and do it again.
So it creates a lack of attunement. Mm-hmm. And so, like, to come from that place of, like, when I realize that I'm working out intensively 5 days a week, but I'm not conscious. I'm not present. In fact, I'm feeling exhausted mentally. It was amazing what one day off did. I mean, one day off, and it's not even like I don't think I was inactive. Right, I think I just went and like swam and floated in the water. Yeah. I just got in the my 15-year-old soccer player we just went in the pool yesterday and just floated literally like with the noodle thing under your feet, just floated for 30 minutes. Just like it's almost like a sensory deprivation thing. Mm-hmm. It's so important to recenter and refocus, get in touch with your breathing. Yeah. I can't imagine a football player, like if you're not ready and you're about to get like hit by a moving train.
Have you done the sensory, like the chambers, the float tanks?
No, I thought Amzi was going to talk about it. We were saying like new things.
No, I love the float tanks. I did one in Vegas and I did one in like Minneapolis. I've tried them in all different cities when I was traveling. Yeah, and I discovered it. And I know there's one like now where I live, and I was looking at it again because it's like an out of body experience, especially if you can really meditate in there.
There's no sound. You
can't feel anything. And then when you kind of come back to life again and then you realize you're in water, you're kind of like, whoa. Like, and at least when I've been able to really get deep in one of those sessions, I was like, whoa, where did I go? It's awesome.
So it's kind of like an open eye meditation.
Well, you go in what looks like a giant egg and it's filled with, I mean, you've done it before, you said, right?
No.
It's like thousands and thousands of pounds of Epsom salts, which give you that weightless like feeling. So you go in this what looks like a giant egg, and you go in and you float and you close the chamber, and it's, you know, you can have music or you could have like ambient music or just silence. I think I like the ambient music because then it freaks me out because you're in a box basically in water, kind of feeling. If you have any feelings of like don't like being trapped, it's definitely not the thing for you. But it keeps you so dialed in and focused. I don't know. It's a really cool experience.
That's amazing.
You should try it.
Yeah. Anything anti-gravity, I think, is really good for like the joints or pain. I mentioned last show that I did a sweat lodge, which I'm happy to organize for anyone out there. But it's also it's intense heat, but it's dark. And I was actually in there with someone who was having kind of a panic experience. But just the fact that you can control, like, that the door can open, immediately they were like, okay, I'm fine. Like, so just the fact that, like, and I think it helped overcome some of those panicky feelings, because some of what comes with that anxiety is I don't have control, and that creates more anxiety, right? You know, like you mentioned, then the body like freezes up or a spasm or something like that. Like, I can't tolerate this temporary failure, so I can't even go to the next down. Like, you know,
right?
You know, substitution. Have you tried anything of that nature?
No, I mean, I've recently tried meditation, like with breath work, but I haven't tried that tank. That sounds interesting, or the sweat lodge either. I've done hot yoga.
Hot yoga? Is it like that? My friends keep inviting me. I'm like, I'll stand in the back. Yeah.
Well, other things I've tried, I guess it's not like this. I've done salt rooms. Have you heard of that? Where you just go sit in like a salt room?
Is that more of a detox?
I think so,
thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I've done that, actually. I've done that.
And for me, though, I was like,
it
was weird. I was like, I don't know, I'm sitting in a room.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your lips will taste a little bit like salt. That's the only thing.
Really?
It didn't jazz me up, no.
Might be snake oil.
I know, a lot of these things are placebo. Right? We're such Angelinos. It's like at every corner there's a different elixir you can try. Not all of these are
but I mean, placebo
sanctioned.
or not, though, if it works for you, it works for you, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of I know we talked about, we had Eric Hinman and Adam Greenfield on, and we're talking about Wim Hof's method of like rapid breathing, and he's like I think a Swedish or Finnish extreme athlete, so he does like the adjusting your body to extreme cold temperatures,
which is crazy. I still can't believe he does this.
But if you've done the hot and cold bath, like, you know, like, you can't be in a depressed state of mind and be extremely cold. Your body's like, I need to warm up. It's very clear.
Yes, I experienced that being back in Boston for the holidays. It was like, get me out of here. It's so cold.
All you need is test your physiology. And it's like, all I want is warmth.
All I want is warmth.
You know, and dryness. So share with us what you're working on, guests. Instagram, we keep putting out there. I'm looking for your ideas on what you want me to address for your pain points. What do you struggle with? We're working on putting out a book on Richard Liston's Keys to High Performance, and incorporating some of the things we're talking about on the show, including somatic experience, healing from injuries, reaching your top level. Caitlin, tell us how more they can get a hold of you.
So obviously, CaitlinPatriciaWeiler.com and Caitlin Patricia Weiler on Facebook, and then of course Kit Kate everywhere else.
Okay, and Amzi, tell us what you got going on, how they can get a hold of you, reach out to you, get your wearable technology, break open their company so no more people malinger.
I don't have a huge social media footprint, but my Instagram is abzarrugh, ABZARRUGH. Also have a website, amzimedicalsolutions.com, where they can read more about the what is called an EFA tool, electrical functional assessment.
Cool. Electrical functional assessment. I've heard of functional assessment, but now, look out, world. The electrical functional assessment could be taken over the workers' comp field, and it's needed, unfortunately. So some things are necessary evils, but these are the ways in which technology can assist companies to prevent loss. And a lot of good companies out there doing positive things that need to feel protected and secure, and help them do the proper assessment of what's going on. So we have exciting guests coming up. Like I mentioned, we have young entrepreneurs coming on. We have leaders in sports and broadcasting. We have who else do we have coming on? Who else? We have comics.
We have months of guests.
We have months of guests. Our list is 6 months long. I am so thankful. We have the dentist for the New Jersey Nets, who I guess was once his camp counselor, so he gets to share
That's awesome.
all the bad stories about me and how I failed as a camp counselor. No, how I led to his success. And we're just going to invite all the people on that, boost my ego. But we're open to having you. If you've got a story, if you've got a transformative journey, I want to hear it. I want to share it. And we're thankful for all the growth. I appreciate you being a part of my passion, giving me a chance to tell people stories. We thank Ahmed for being here. We hope he'll take it easy on me on the next workout. And keep sharing, keep in contact. And happy 2019, everybody. This is Richard, and we are out.